Good morning, everyone. My name is MightyStream. I'm brought to you by Hope Through Navigation, and this is our H.O.O.D Recovery Services. I'm going to do your Just for Today in a meditation for July the 14th, and I'm excited to get into that with you. Let's go ahead and share the screen and look at our Just for Today. It's entitled An Inside Job from page 204. Social acceptability does not equal recovery. Basic text, page 22. One of the first things that happens to many of us in recovery is that we start to look better. We get healthier, we bathe, we dress more appropriately. And without the goading of active addiction, many of us finally stop stealing, lying, and hustling. We start to look normal just by removing the drugs. Looking normal is very different than being normal. Acceptability in the eyes of the world is a benefit of recovery. It is not the same thing as recovery. We can enjoy the benefits of recovery, but we must take care to nurture their true source. Lasting recovery isn't found in acceptance from others, but in the inner growth set in motion by the 12 steps. Just for today, I know that looking good isn't enough. Lasting recovery is an inside job. Let's take a moment of silence, followed by the we version of the Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Please and thank you. So this reading today is about the inside job. And I don't think that many of us really spend a lot of time trying to decipher or divide what the outside job is and the inside job is. I think most of us that have been in recovery for a while, we actually attribute the outside job or the proof of the inside work to the work that we're actually doing on the inside. However, there are times when we can get so carried away in maintaining those outside benefits that we have as a result of our recovery that we begin to neglect the internal being that we are, right? The spiritual being that we are. I remember when I was a young girl hearing a preacher give a sermon, and he was talking about materialism. And he was saying that materialism, the thing about it is that once you start acquiring material gain, material things, they require that you maintain them. So if you buy a fancy car, that fancy car is going to wear out if you don't take care of it. So there's going to be mechanical bills that come up that have to be maintained. There's going to be a higher level of insurance depending on just how fancy that vehicle is that has to be maintained. And so that thinking that the more you get, the harder you have to work to keep it is pretty true, right? And so what can happen sometimes is that we can get so caught up in the keeping of those things that we're not able to spend the time or have the energy that we need to spend on our spiritual being, that inside job, right? And sometimes a hiccup will have to happen. A uncomfortable circumstance will come up that will speak to your spirit and say, I'm here, wrecking your profile as a result of the fact that you didn't maintain the very things that allowed you to get all of these material things, all of these degrees, all of these vehicles and homes and all these nice things around your home. You have that outward looking, right, appearance of having things together. But if someone really sat down and engaged you, they would really find out just how conflicted and angry, unsatisfied, unpeaceful, bitter, um, full of character defects like cheating and lying and backbiting, they would find out the real deal. And the only way that you can pull those things back into check is to start taking the time to do the daily maintenance. You know, that's why this just for today is important to me, because it is an opportunity for me to slow down before I even get revved up. Sometimes I end up revved up and don't get to it till later in the day, which is not my preference, but it does happen. But generally speaking, doing the just for today, the NA meditation allows me time to settle down and to focus my energy into a spiritual principle that I want to have, and to have it identify who I am. You know, and so I want you to do that today. I want for you to think about, is there a dissonance? Is there a difference or some friction between who you present yourself to be, who the world sees, and who you really are? You know, and so especially if you're someone that's been around with some clean time, it's time for those two things to start lining up, or for you at least to start bringing them back into focus. I think one of the things that happens with old timers is that we have a tendency to think that doing step work is the solution, and we just need to get back in touch with our sponsor and back into writing our steps. And that's part of it. As it says here, it's part of what we need to do. But the true challenge is that step 12. I would say that step 11 and step 12, right? Our being able to maintain a conscious contact with the God of our own understanding, asking for knowledge of his will and the power to carry it out. And then in the 12th step, being able to apply all these spiritual principles to all of our affairs, right? And be useful as a messenger, right? That recovery is possible. And so that's what I think that after you've been around for a long time, you obviously have been able to stop using drugs and stay stopped. And just that process alone has given you some benefits. Many of us in my community have gone on to get college degrees, open our own businesses, licensed by the state to do social work, licensed by the state to do counseling. I know some of us that are accountants. Many of us have gone on to do other things, but I would say significantly, the majority of those individuals that I know, they do not make meetings anymore. The majority of those individuals that I know, not only do they not make meetings anymore, they don't sponsor anyone. They don't have a sponsor. And they have become very comfortable with the lifestyle that they've attained. And because they've been away from the fellowship for so long, they don't even show up for their own clean time anymore. There's some of us that have not celebrated our clean time in years just because, one, the pandemic, but also because we don't have that working relationship with anyone anymore. You know, and so I just want to say to those individuals, if you're listening, I want to say to you that a lot of who I am today in recovery has a lot to do with who you were and are, who you were and have been in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. And I want to say to you, thank you so much for keeping the doors open. Thank you so much for being willing to just have small conversations with me after the meetings. There's one lady I remember I had started a meeting, and it wasn't getting much support. And she just wanted to come check it out. And she came to that meeting spot, and she and I had the best meeting. And I remember her talking to me, and I was telling her how conflicted I was about having spent so much time overseas getting a bachelor's degree and not being able to transfer those credits here and not wanting to start over. And she gave me some of the best advice. And she said, you are not going to be happy until you go back to school and get what your heart desires. And so I'm in that process I'm in a second year graduate working on my master's now. But I had to start all over with a bachelor's in biblical studies from Kenya. I had to start all over so that I could get the credits that I needed. And I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing today if she had not taken that time to spend with me and to talk to me truthfully, not trying to co-sign any of my mess. And so she's one of those individuals that I have a lot of respect for in the rooms, right? And so, like I said, there's many of us, and I want to challenge you today. Even if this doesn't apply to you, and you are still in the space of doing internal work and staying connected to the process of recovery, maybe there's someone that has truly been there for you in the past. Just reach out to them. It's a text or a phone call, a messenger. Just reach out to them and let them know, so that they know and understand who they've been and that you value them and you want to see them. Offer to pick them up for a meeting. 9 times out of 10, if they're my age or older, their health is not as good as it used to be. They may be compromised right now in not wanting to have exposure to a group of people that, pretty much we're pretty rebellious. We wear a mask if we want to, and if we don't want to, we don't. And how dare you ask me if I'm vaxxed, right? So they just might be like, no, I'll just do Zoom meeting. But maybe they need for you to extend your hand to them and say, I would love to pick you up. I could take you to a very small meeting. Everyone sits 6 feet apart from each other, and carry them to that meeting. Give back what was freely given to you. My name is MightyStream. I've enjoyed your company today. I am going to get ready to do the other meditation, and I will be talking to you tomorrow.